no matter how much they've enjoyed a Deadpool Wolverine movie, going to a shop and reading a Deadpool comic, which, not to digress, is what always drives me crazy about Marvel's tendency to make their comic publishing visually and aesthetically align with the movies, because you are pitching to an audience that is never going to buy your stuff. And in doing so, you're alienating the core comic audience that you still have.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Highs to approved, fan and artist and creator too. What? This is how the challenges do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. It gets hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
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 Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dal.
Dal.
W. Dal Bush.
He's way more tentacly than...
Tentacly.
Yeah, okay. See, the image that they use has the big brown eye for the eyeball in the middle, but the figure, yeah. I wonder if the tentacles are bendable.
They must be.
What's he called?
Gargantos.
Gargantos, not Shumagorath.
Yeah, I feel like Shumagorath probably was something non-trademarkable, or also maybe a conflict where they're like, we can't do a toy called Shumagorath.
I feel like
he's super.
If any combination
they're all posable.
of words should be trademarkable, it should be Shumagorath.
It might be a character from, I assume Shumagorath as a name or whatever appeared in something else, like a Lovecraft thing or a Robert E. Howard thing, and they were like,
maybe.
no.
Maybe.
You could get away with that in the 70s. You can't get away with that now.
Yeah.
And here is the absolutely massive Juggernaut to show you what it looks like punching Captain America really
Why
hard
would he be
in the
doing
gut.
that?
That's how big he is.
Oh, wow.
Pretty big.
And is that a explosion effect from his head?
Yep.
For a headbutt?
Yep, because that's what it is in the game. Most of these are like fan channel or exclusives. So Cap Venom is, let's scroll all the way to the top.
Oh, so you mean each one is a different market, a different...
Yeah, like because they're 2-packs and big box figures.
Yeah.
They're not all available the same ways. Like the Fantastic Four movie figures are all everywhere you'd expect.
Sure.
Cap Venom is mainline, which I guess means they're going to be everywhere. Gargantos is Fanmazon, which I assume is Amazon. So is the Juggernaut figure, so is the Wolverine versus Silver Samurai. The War Machine Omega Red is Walmart, and Psylocke Thanos is Target.
There's no...
These are all launching like through the next 6 weeks.
There's no Doctor Doom figure nor Galactus figure for Fantastic Four?
Nope. I assume there'll be like a second wave of stuff that'll come later, maybe like different designs or whatever, or maybe not. Or maybe they'll just do individual figures for some of that stuff. I just want them to do the Galactus foot. Just do a boxed Galactus foot.
Sure.
Marvel Legends scale foot.
I mean, they already have it. They already have a Galactus.
Yeah. But you have to do a much bigger foot. You know what I mean? Like, that's big, but that's not movie big.
How hard is it to upscale when you have a prototype?
I don't think it's that hard at all.
Well, that's Marvel Legends that are coming out, which we now really don't have an immediate source for.
Nope.
Because Diamond has not been getting them for a while.
The year?
There's several waves that have come out already.
Yeah, you can put Hasbro on a list of things like Hachette and Scholastic and other stuff that Diamond just has not been getting for the year of 2025 with basically no communication to stores. Even though Ad Populum, the new owners, had very brief FAQ that came out last Friday after we'd recorded saying it's weird that Ad Populum hasn't had any communications to retailers since taking over Diamond. We're like in the very brief bullet pointed section of Q's and A's. It was basically like, if I order stuff, will I get it? And it's like, you will get it. It's like, well, how and when?
Yeah.
Because everyone's cutting you off. I don't like, they directly address the PRH thing, but what about like Wizards of the Coast and stuff like that? Where like, clearly that's not going to happen. Who is still supplying you and for how long? And are any orders that we placed prior to the takeover of Ad Populum going to be filled, as everyone now who was owed money by Diamond under the old ownership is realizing that they will probably not see any of that money ever again. Like, this isn't great. And there's basically just assume that anything you order from Diamond is like, maybe you'll get it, but you should really start thinking about getting it other places if you absolutely can.
And so much of it, especially the merchandise, is stuff that we don't order from anywhere else. We don't have sources for.
We're going to have to find them.
Or just not, like a lot of the stuff is like, all right, we can do without it. It's fine.
Yeah, I would like us to be able to still carry stuff like Marvel Legends. We don't necessarily do as much volume in it as we used to, or that we've done at some points in the past. But I think it's still valuable for us to have, not just in a basic, like, we still sell figures, sold a Kid Omega the other day, but that it's nice to have in the store, you know, as an option for people when they're shopping.
Yeah, and I mean, selfishly, personally, I buy Marvel Legends, you know? I'd like to be able to get the ones that I want. There's several I have on order from challengers that will never fill.
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's hard to say for sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously some clarity on that from Metapopulum and a little bit of optimism that they will start filling orders from before their takeover would be nice. But yeah, I think this summer, I think there's a few things that we need to put on like a little short list of, like, we need to find places to get these things. We have some other stuff we need to clear up and settle up first. And then once that happens, it'll be nice to say, like, let's open an account this other place or whatever.
Sure.
I think we've talked before. I think Entertainment Earth is probably where we'll start looking again for stuff like Marvel Legends. I don't think Southern Hobby carries them, but we'll look into it. They've carried other Transformer stuff.
Weird.
So I think they might still carry Hasbro, but they just might not advertise their Marvel Legends stuff. When we'd ordered with Southern Hobby in the past to get Hasbro stuff, we would do the entire calendar year.
At one time,
At one time. It would never be like a series of rolling pre-orders like it might be for card games or role-playing games. It would just be an unofficial, the rep talks to you and they say, this is what Hasbro gave us. There are no images. Some of these cases do not have any descriptions.
They're code names, and a lot of times.
What do you want? How many cases do you want?
We can't tell you what G.I. Joes you're going to get, but it's G.I. Joe Classified Wave 3.
And the reason why we stopped going with Southern Hobby is because, hilariously, as we would eventually meet the same conditions with Diamond, we would order stuff and it would not come in.
Yeah.
Not to the degree that we've had with Diamond, where this entire year we haven't really gotten anything. But there would be individual waves of things that we would just never get. And they'd never be canceled. We never have a communication. We just look up and go, hey, didn't we order this that came out everywhere 3 months ago? And it's like, you did, and it's just never going to happen.
Remember how prevalent the Captain Carter shield was at Targets?
I don't, but I'll take your word for it.
I mean, it was a ridiculous...
They had 1 million of them?
Yeah. Like, that one was such a weird... Because they'd never stocked shields before.
Right.
I never bought that one for me because you and some assorted friends chipped in and got me a fancy metal one that Disney sold that had
Disney
sound effects.
Yeah, not realizing they would eventually do a plastic mass market version.
Which, who would have ever thought that?
I certainly didn't.
But, well, my point is now the Doctor Doom mask and cowl has started coming out.
Yeah.
So that's a thing that I definitely would have, we ordered for the store. I ordered for me.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, like, do I start looking for one? Do I wait? I don't know that it's going to be super hard to find, but I also don't know that it'll be as commonplace as being at Target in mass quantities, you know?
I don't know. I feel like that's the sort of thing that the price point and the size is probably something that you'd see at a Target or something.
And they did have a few Magneto helmets, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's impossible that you would see it in the wild.
Yeah.
And certainly our discount on stuff like the Doctor Doom helmet was not so great that it would be, a total wallet hit to buy it at a Target instead of waiting for us to get it from Diamond. But yeah, I think definitely we need to, certainly looking ahead to the end of the year, we need to find a better source or a source for Hasbro stuff going forward. Same thing for there's other toy stuff that we'd love to have, I think. I occasionally will see McFarlane stuff or whatever, and if we could find it sourced at a good place with a good discount, I think we could carry it.
But I mean, is that even a concern now since they don't have the DC license anymore?
They do. They announced new DC figures today.
Did they?
Yes.
Didn't Mattel?
It's weird. No one really knows what's going on because that was the Toy Fair announcement, was that Mattel picked up the license, but it's like McFarlane's been rolling stuff out. Huh. So either they have an overlapping license or
they have a
are
deadline
slightly different.
Of like the 30.
I don't know.
December 31st.
Like literally today, as I was looking at that Marvel Legends stuff on Toyark, Toyark, there was McFarlane also did a live stream, and it's like, here's Batman animated figures, here's Superman movie figures, here's, I think, just some other like DC multiverse figures. And it's like, here you go. So they're still making them.
Interesting.
But yeah, Mattel, just last night, today, there was new listings on Diamond's new to order for Mattel stuff. So I don't know if that indicates that Mattel is still working with Diamond, and that's, maybe they'll have DC toys that we can get. I don't know. But yeah, I would, like everything else we've done with Diamond for the last 8 months, I think it behooves us to find another source, regardless of whether or not Diamond retains the ability to get product, because how much do you trust they're going to keep that ability to get product?
It's fair. Such a learning curve, such a change, a shift. It's
a thing that I think is doubly disappointing that Ad Populum has been so bad with communication, because you, as the new owners, you desperately need to reassure the few remaining clients you have, both stores and vendors, that you are a good place to do business. By being so quiet and continuing all of the dumb things that the previous ownership was doing, you're just telling me, like, no, keep bailing. Keep finding other sources to get stuff, because Diamond Comic Distributors is not a professional place that is going to handle your business well.
That's akin to something that Brian Hibbs had talked about in his most recent Tilting at Windmills column. And it's all about sourcing your comics and graphic novels from alternate distribution methods. But one of the things he was most disappointed with was that those specific publishers haven't said, hey, we're not shipping to Diamond anymore, or Diamond hasn't had our product, or Diamond hasn't released our product.
Yeah.
It's just up to you, the customer, to notice, oh, these books are out in mainstream bookstores. We haven't gotten them yet.
You just look around and go, oh, we haven't gotten Scholastic stuff in months. What's going on with that? Or worse, a customer asks you, like, hey, I ordered this thing and you never got it in. What's the deal? And then we have to investigate and find out, oh, shit, yeah, we did order it. It never filled. I don't know what's going on. We'll have to figure out a different way to get it for you. I'm so sorry.
We still haven't had that newest Investigators book from like February.
Yeah, we'll have to work on a Macmillan account to be able to get that stuff.
Yeah, that is.
Put it on the list.
It's a big list.
It's a growing list of accounts that we need to start.
Yeah. It's definitely the time for many different distribution channels, which makes reorders fine. Pre-orders difficult.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time, just the ability to kind of have everything in front of you and know what's available. It's really going to be a situation that's more dispersed, and it's going to be, every week kind of looking at a bunch of different sites and going, like, what new thing do we not have an order for? What do we put an order in for? What
minimums do we have to hit? Excuse me. I hiccuped.
Right on the word hit, which was nice.
What new minimums do we have to hit in order to get a discount?
Yeah.
Versus getting, you're getting billed at full price. Don't you wish at some point Hachette would be like, hey, or Ingram or whomever who has the tendency to do the full price, would just say, hey, FYI, this is going to be full price.
Oh, yeah. There's any number of times I've had to email Hachette after they've invoiced us to go, I did not realize we were not going to be getting a discount on that book because I thought we ordered it together. But, that wasn't available, and now it is, but it's all by itself, and now I'm paying full price, and I would never...
It doesn't matter when you ordered it, matter when they ship it.
I can't sell a book at full price. That means I make $0, and this has all been a waste of my time. Can we talk about this? Yeah, it is a little disappointing that Hachette in particular is so hard to understand what discount you're going to be getting, and because of the way that you don't find out the discount until they bill you, it's usually too late to do anything about it. Or you have to jump through hoops. You have to call them up and make your case, and then they have to get an approval, and then they have to, like, credit you. And it's all of that could have been stopped if they would have said, like, hey, by the way, you're not getting a discount on this. And okay, cool, then take it off my order. I don't want it. The Chronicle thing in particular, that you can order Chronicle stuff with everything else, but Chronicle, like Abrams, when you order from Hachette, is its own separate discount.
It doesn't count as quantity based off of other books ordered.
Like when you order from Hachette, and you're ordering like Yen Press plus a bunch of other non-Abrams publishers, that all accumulates together to hit your minimum to get 50% discount. Chronicle doesn't count towards that. Chronicle, like Abrams, is its own separate thing. So regardless of whatever else you're ordering on a normal Hachette order,
you have to have the minimum quantity for Chronicle books.
Or you get 25% off and then you're screwed.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, I paid way too much for these Jeffrey Brown X-Men books. Fantastic.
That sounds like a real world example.
Yep.
Whoops.
Yep.
Figure we would have ordered enough of those to hit the minimum.
Nope.
Wow.
Yep.
Their minimum is $2,000. I'm sorry, 2,000 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
$2,000 cost.
I think we ordered 8 of those books, and we needed to order 10 at the minimum. And they never told us, and they just went, okay, I guess you only want a 25% discount. That is not what we want. Thank you. I would have, if you would have told me that, I would have ordered 2 more books and ended up saving probably $30 by doing it.
This is like apples versus sporting equipment, but how often are you getting rung up at a grocery store and someone, the cashier will stop and say, oh, if you get one more of these, it's half off, or, you know, this kind of applies if you get more, like they just tell you what you're away from.
I was at McDonald's one time and I was getting, this is back before I was ordering on the app
grocery store?
Or on the kiosk when I actually just went to the register, and I'd said I wanted a hash brown.
Okay, caveman.
I was getting a hash brown and some other stuff, but I was getting one hash brown, and the woman who was ringing up was like, oh, it's like buy one, get one for $1. And I'm like, oh, okay, but I just want one. She's like, but the second one's only $1. And I really had to convince her, like, no, I don't care how much it costs. I only want the one hash brown. And she was kind of offended that I wouldn't like take the deal. It's like, I don't want to eat a second hash brown. That's the problem. You're talking money. I'm talking the amount of hash browns I want to eat in one sitting.
Do you think she was waiting for you to offer it to her?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want me to buy you a hash brown?
For $1.
There's several McDonald's I've been to going through the drive-thru where you get up to the window, and especially if you're paying cash, the checkout person will just say, can I keep the change?
Really? I've never had that.
You never had that?
No.
Oh.
Can I keep the change?
Yeah. Can I keep your change?
No.
It's happened to me at least twice.
That's so weird.
The McDonald's on Western and like Madison.
Oh, wow. Obviously, any number of restaurants I've been to, they will ask me if I want to round up for some charity or thing. And if I'm paying cash, I probably will say fine. But yeah, I've never had an employee ask me if they can just keep my change.
Can I keep your change?
Never had that happen.
And then it's, can I eat your food?
Yeah, I guess at that point.
Can I have your car? Can I drive home? No, I'm asking you, can I have your car and can I drive home?
I don't have a car, and yes, you can drive home.
Darn it. Wait, when am I driving home? That's so weird. That's so weird. This is not a full topic, but I just want to reiterate a thing that we've said before, and this is a thing we have not talked about this morning, but Morgan Perry is the best.
She's the best.
Morgan Perry is the best.
She's the best.
We talked a lot last week about construction-y stuff. That was last week, right? Yeah, everything falling apart.
Sure.
So about a year or so ago, we were getting the ducts cleaned at the store.
Okay. We needed to because there was some construction going on at the Black River Barbershop that introduced a ton of dust into our store, and the fear was it also introduced a ton of dust into the vents. And we would need to clean them, or we would potentially be cleaning dust out of the store for the rest of our lives.
So when we were cultivating the podcastatorium, we had a duct cleaner come out and clean the ducts.
Yep.
And I remember that the company name was Lowe's.
Yes.
So when we were going to clean the ducts at the store, I'm like, oh, those guys were great.
Sure.
And they gave us a big discount for using cash, which we would not have been using at the store. So let's just use them again. So I looked them up, called them out. Lowe's came out and did all the ducts at the store. But I didn't remember it being like it. The guy who did it was great at the store, but we were told it was 2 people. It was just one. We were told it's going to be 8 hours. He did it in like 4. Like everything was the guy who did the work was great.
Right.
But dealing with the company felt very different. Had cleaned the ducts here.
At the podcast store.
Yeah. It's time to look at one of the other services they offer, mainly cleaning the air conditioner.
Okay.
That's the thing I wanted to get done before summer of this year.
Okay.
So I went digging through my records to find their contact information. And I found the contact information for both of the 2 completely different companies
Oh.
that are called Lowe's.
Oh.
There's Lowe's Duct Cleaning and Lowe's Air Duct Cleaning.
Interesting.
We used both of them.
Oh, okay.
We used one of them at the Podcastatorium. And then when I looked up, I'm like, oh, it's Lowe's. Then I just Googled Lowe's.
Sure.
And found a completely different duct cleaning company with the same name.
Crazy.
And that's the one we used at the store.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a year later or so, now I'm like, oh, now I get why it was a different experience. It was a different company. It was an entirely different company with the same name. The only difference is the word air.
Oh, wow.
What are the chances of that?
Apparently very good.
I mean, I imagine they have to be registered in different cities or different states.
Or maybe, are they individual branches of like...
Their logos are entirely different.
Okay, I mean, I was going to say, like, if they had...
like, oh, this is an air duct company.
I was going to say, what is the term I'm looking for? Like, they're franchised.
Yeah.
Where it's like a different individual owner owns it, but they're still Lowe's, but they can do their business however they want.
Completely different companies. What a surprise. Like, legally, nobody else in the city of Chicago can have Challengers Inc.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we have. There was a different Challengers Incorporated, but they were out of business before we got the rights to use it. Luckily, when we were authorizing our business through the city of Chicago in the state of Illinois.
Sure.
But you have to go through a registry, and you can't have a name someone else has.
Right.
So yeah, two completely different Chicago-based Lowe's Air Duct Cleaning.
Crazy.
I know. I wasn't expecting it either, Dow. Were you?
I was not. That was unexpected.
It's now time to thank our Patreon supporters, including our annual patrons, Usi Arun Singh, Becca Hilburn and Joseph Coco, Brent Helt, Dow's mom Diane Bush, President of the Brian Garside Fan Club, Django Borin, Jose and Genevieve Villagomez, Josh Crowley of Westfield Comics, our bestest wrestling watching pal, Michael Lee, Michael Romanenko, Severio the Cat, our patrons who have created their own tier, Andrew Drew Troy Aaliyah, Chris Burton, Claudine Neville, our other generous patrons from the Say My Name pledge level, Ben-Hur Benedict Calaguas, Manage Comics Own, Brian Garside, Christopher Haith of Crooked Dog Comics, Drew Triner and Ashley Edwards, Gareth from Monkey Rocks Comics, my brother George Brower, Heidi D., Ali Aitchison, Jacob Sorelli of Kamikaze, Josh Trigg, Mark Hammond of Aw Yeah Comics, Margie, Keith, Logan, and Malcolm Springham, Matt Armstrong, Mitchell Davies of All-Star Comics in Melbourne, Australia, Morgan Kaiju Perry, Nicholas Fenner, my longtime pal Robert Burns, Ron Payne, Sean Bowers, Tad Eggleston and Johnny Williams, Thomas Nagovin of Century Guild, Walt Grogan, Walt's Comic Shop from Berlin, Germany. And if you want to hear your name thanked on this very podcast once a month, head over to patreon.com/challengers and pledge at the $5 Say My Name level. And a big thank you to all our other patrons at the various other pledge levels. All right, so the big news for this week, the stage was set for this earlier in the year when it was announced that
at Comics Pro,
no less, back in February, that Marvel and DC would be crossing over twice this year.
Yeah, there was a presentation on stage with Dan Buckley from Marvel
and Marie Javins
from DC, and it was the announcement that there would be another announcement later in the year. So there really wasn't anything other than, yes, in 2025 there will be new Marvel DC crossovers.
For the first time in like 23 years.
Yeah, over 20 years, yeah. It's insane. But nobody really knew what that meant.
Yeah, a lot of speculation.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say any informed speculation because there wasn't any clarity as to, like, is this like literally DC versus Marvel like we had in the 90s? Is this a series of things? Is individual stories? Is it a mini series? Is it a one shot? But this week we got confirmation of what the beginning stages of it are, because this isn't even the whole thing. This is just what they're releasing in 2025.
Yeah.
What they're releasing in 2025 are two different Batman Deadpool specials. One,
or Deadpool Batman special.
I was going to say one Deadpool Batman from Marvel, one Batman Deadpool from DC.
Marvel goes first in September. It is Zeb Wells and Greg Capullo.
Yes, with a billion variant covers. We're sure nothing's been announced, but you can pretty much
I
bet
guess
money on that.
I guess that on the low side of 100.
So I think there's probably going to be at least 10 open order and incentive covers for stores, and there's probably going to be 90 store exclusive variants.
How many store exclusive copies do you want from us?
Are we on the cover with them? Is it, I'll be Deadpool, you can be Batman?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to be Patrick.
Oh, no. You have to be Deadpool or Batman. That's the options.
Wait, you're going to, who are you?
Deadpool.
Okay. Yeah, because if I have a full face mask, you got to see the beard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to have the lower face exposed, or no one's going to know it's Patrick.
Yes, that is my only discerning characteristic.
Exactly. That's it. But anyway, the other book is coming in November, and that is Batman Deadpool, and that is by the DC creative team of Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. The Grant Morrison credit was the point that made me say, Jesus Christ, out loud when I was reading the article, because that was not a name I would have expected to see on a project like this.
Yeah.
Zeb Wells, Greg Capullo for Marvel?
Sure.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Greg Capullo's done a bunch of Marvel stuff recently. He's one of their biggest talents. He only really does special projects. Zeb Wells just did several years on Amazing Spider-Man.
And when Zeb got into doing comics at Marvel, he was doing lighter, more comedic stuff.
Yeah, he's a comedy guy. He also, according to the article, was one of the writers on the most recent Deadpool Wolverine movie, so clearly knows how to do a Deadpool thing. Right off the bat, no pun intended, as a reader, I don't think I care a lot about a Batman Deadpool crossover. As someone who's been reading through the Amalgam Age omnibus and passed up the DC versus Marvel omnibus, I've found most intercompany crossovers to be interesting ideas, but not very fun comic books. They are never as cool as I want them to be, and I don't even know what I would want them to be at this point in my life. The other thing that's kind of weird is that there's a version of this where I'm like, I get why you do Batman and Deadpool. Batman is inarguably the biggest, most prominent crossover character DC has. We have joked several times that if you spun the Batman publishing off from DC, it would sell more than everything DC had left.
Yes. Yep.
So Batman as your first one, sure. Deadpool is where it sort of loses me, because I can get it, because like Deadpool and Wolverine just had $1 billion movie last year. Deadpool sells a ton of merch. Deadpool is a huge character for the non-comic reading audience. Where it's weird is that as a comic book character, Deadpool doesn't sell for shit.
His series never lasts, constantly being rebooted.
The current one by Cody Ziegler is just wrapping up into a Deadpools and Wolverines miniseries, which is kind of just an admission of like Deadpool as his own character is not something anyone really wants to read about long term. And they did
everything you do to boost sales in this miniseries. They killed him off. They brought in a new one.
Yeah, they replaced him with a legacy character. Yeah. So Batman for us, not counting Hatoosh, which we are still trying to figure out our level on, is a book that sells for us between, like, across multiple covers, 80 and 100 copies a month per issue, let's say. Deadpool is a book that across multiple covers sells between 15 and 20 copies for us.
Yeah.
This is not a huge character. Spider-Man is the biggest character at Marvel, but
the biggest crossover character for sure.
I would have just said the best-selling character they have currently publishing. Either Amazing or Ultimate, take your pick.
It's because you're not reading Helverine, Dal.
I'm not reading the Helverine. So it's interesting that they're doing Batman and Deadpool, because there's a kind of public consciousness version of this that makes a lot of sense, but then there's an inbuilt comic book thing where Deadpool does not feel like a big enough character to be in a book with Batman. The thing that really made me pay attention is that, and made this decision honestly seem like probably a good one, is that they announced this in Entertainment Weekly, not in whatever remaining comic enthusiast portal there might still be. I don't even know if there is one that would move the needle or that would get any attention or that anyone would care about. It might as well just be like a press release email. Doing this in Entertainment Weekly is saying this is for a crossover audience. This is for an audience that does not read comics normally and probably doesn't even realize that Deadpool is a low-selling comic book character. They know Deadpool is a movie guy. They know Batman's a movie guy. They will maybe be more inclined to check out a Batman Deadpool thing than a, Batman Spider-Man thing or something else.
But every merch company we order from, whether it be pins, patches, stickers, what have you, there's 1,000 Deadpool things.
Sure.
So many Deadpool posters available that we don't stock.
But it's always that eternal struggle of like every rich dickhead has a boat called like Kryptonite or something, and it's like none of them read any Superman comics.
How many NBA stars have Superman logo tattoos?
Yeah. So there's a lot of that where it's like there's something that is hugely prevalent in the culture, and none of that transforms into comic sales. I will, for my life, always remember this is early to mid 90s. A mom is in a store I'm working at with her kid, and they're walking past the DC comics, and I hear her say out loud to her kid, "Oh, they make Batman comics now." Like, knew of Batman because Batman was a hugely popular movie and Batman merchandise was everywhere. Considered the comics to be like a weird spin-off adjunct of a very popular movie franchise. And it's like, that's probably how a lot of people think of this stuff. Like, they might be aware of the thing as a comic, but they have zero interest normally, no matter how much they've enjoyed a Deadpool Wolverine movie, going to a shop and reading a Deadpool comic, which, not to digress, is what always drives me crazy about Marvel's tendency to make their comic publishing visually and aesthetically align with the movies, because you are pitching to an audience that is never going to buy your stuff. And in doing so, you're alienating the core comic audience that you still have by turning it into a movie that they've already gone to see. Anyway, not to get off topic. So I think Batman Deadpool is probably a good choice. You and I already briefly talked about.
Okay, I just want to jump in and say that I finally figured out, because I never had a take on this before, but I finally know to reach the maximum possible audience of crossoverness for people that don't read comics regularly, I figured out the 2-character crossover.
Okay.
Venom Joker.
Wow. Yeah, maybe.
Just think of the
Jared Leto and Tom Hardy doing voices at each other. Is that what you want?
No, I'm thinking of the fan base.
I'm sorry. I mean, very, very keen. And whoever next plays Venom. Yeah. No.
Anyway,
that would honestly sell. Yeah.
Yeah. I was immediately disappointed when I saw it.
That's just your nature.
Side note, I really hated the Batman logo, and I thought that was Marvel doing a Batman logo, but then I saw it on the DC one, and I realized, oh, this is probably the new Batman logo for the upcoming Matt Fraction Batman
If you
series.
look at the Batman design that they're using both on the Greg Capullo and Dan Mora covers, it is very clearly the new costume that Jorge Jimenez has designed for the upcoming Matt Fraction run. And also keep in mind that these books are coming out September and November, which is dead in the center of when Matt Fraction is taking over the book with Jorge Jimenez.
I believe it's September.
Currently. I mean, depending on whether or not Hattush runs late or not, we'll see. So I think that's both those characters are very like how they are in the comics right now. They're not going.
A new Batman #1 and Deadpool Batman #1 in September.
Do you know what I'm most excited about for when they're releasing these things? We'll have the Absolute collections and more or less at the same time.
Yeah.
So if you come in buying Batman Deadpool and you're like, I don't really buy comics, it's like, here's the Absolute Batman trade. Please buy this. You're going to love it. So Did
you order any of those for yourself?
For me?
Yeah.
No.
Not even the Wonder Woman?
No. I'm holding off for them to do a larger format.
Okay. So I did the hardcover Wonder Woman.
Basically, if they do a deluxe edition Absolute Wonder Woman, I am 100% there.
Yeah.
I want it on as big a paper as I can get it. And conversely, if they also then do, like, I don't know how you title this, Absolute Wonder Woman, I would trade my deluxe edition for that.
Obviously, it's Ultimate Absolute Wonder Woman. That's the way to go.
Absoluter Wonder Woman.
Absolutest. That's where the pages are an inch thick.
Maybe. Yeah, I think Batman Deadpool is probably a good choice, even if it's a comic I'm not necessarily excited about. But it's not for me. It's for the 99% of Americans that don't read comic books regularly.
So we had
need a reason to come in.
We had a discussion. And
we did, briefly.
We each had very different numbers in our heads as to what, like, and counting,
I wouldn't say very,
but I mean, off by like 100.
Yours is only double what I was thinking.
That's right. It's not that far away. No, it was.
I was slightly conservative because the thing that I remember is we were
Speaking of Greg Capullo and a major Batman crossover.
We were both really excited about the sales potential for Batman Spawn. Todd McFarlane was doing a new one with Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder. Was it Scott Snyder right there? Was it just Todd McFarlane?
No, it was just Todd McFarlane.
I can't remember. But there was a new Batman Spawn crossover, and Spawn was really ramping up its heat, and Batman obviously is always popular. And the thought was like, oh, this is going to draw a lot of those casual fans in that maybe like knew about these characters, but would come back for this. They didn't really. Like, we did okay with it, but it wasn't like a seismic hit. It wasn't like the best book we had of the year. It was just,
we did sell out.
Yeah. But we, I think, had expectations that we were going to blow out of it, and instead we eventually sold out of it.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. That's one you really want, and the other you feel like you got away with something. So keeping that in mind, I definitely was erring on the side of like, I think we'll get a lot of interest. I don't think we're going to have, you know, Godzilla Chicago is kind of where we'll land on this, which is really good. I don't think we're going to land on like absolute Batman #1 for this. You were more enthusiastic about it, or at least more optimistic in its potential.
It's interesting that we use Absolute Batman and Godzilla Chicago, because both of those are books we feel we vastly underordered.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I see now where we also disagree is I think that Deadpool Batman will sell better than Batpool Deadman.
Uh-huh.
That's a crossover I want.
Wolverpool and Deverine are going to reappear for this.
Only because it's the first one, not because of the creative team,
Sure.
not because of the story, but because it's first.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those people are going to come back in 2 months,
I guess.
for another part 2 or a whole different story.
Sure. I think
feel
it's a whole
like
different story.
Well, but I mean, if
Yeah.
they're leading into a major crossover in 2026, they kind of have to.
Again, I think we're speculating that it's going to be a major crossover. It could just be, you know,
More.
Superman Fantastic Four or whatever, you know? It's not that I think necessarily that the creative teams are going to matter in general. I think the second one will sell better to our subscribers. The first one will sell better to the general audience.
Sure.
I think Grant Morrison, Dan Mora will make a lot of our regular subscribers pay attention in a way that Greg Capullo and Zeb Wells will be something that they will get because it's the first one. Like, not because they're terrifically excited about the creative potential, but they're not going to wait for the November one.
Did we sell out of Godzilla Chicago second print?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that weird? Because we ordered more of that than we did of the first one, and again with the auspice of having it for the full summer.
Sure. The problem was we got it in time for Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, that's fair.
We sold a ton of copies on Free Comic Book Day.
So, theoretically, how long would you want Deadpool Batman #1 on a shelf available for purchase?
So, it's tricky. Because if it was the only one, I'd probably say 6 months.
Okay, 6 months was what I had in my head as well.
However, there's a second one coming out in November.
Yeah.
So 3 to 4 months?
Huh.
I guess maybe
let me revise the question.
If you wanted to make the argument for it, I could see through the end of the year for the holiday season. I don't know if it's a great gift because it's only going to be like $5 or $6.
Sure. As far as we know.
It's probably going to be like $6.
Man, my guess to this was $5.99 saddle stitch, not square bound.
Yeah, and then $6.99 for the DC cardstock covers, of which there will be probably 10 of them.
I wonder if they'll do that.
They definitely will.
Well,
I think
we
both
don't
of these
know
are
what the breakdown is going to be for what they owe each other for publishing.
Well, but I think because of the way they're doing the split thing, I think Marvel probably keeps the Marvel money and DC probably keeps the DC money. Is how I would think.
I think it's half and half for each of them. Otherwise, they would have to like make sure each company does the exact same amount.
No, I think it's my guess, and I have no inside knowledge of this, is that both companies are kind of doing their promotional and variant scheme stuff for it. I wonder if they will also do their theme month variant things.
Oh, God.
Where you're going to get Deadpool plus a bunch of DC characters and Batman plus a bunch of Marvel characters over the month. I don't know if that's going to be outside the scope of their agreement, but I can see both companies really wanting to do that. Yeah, I always wonder how much this stuff matters, because I think as retailers, we were all pretty excited when DC and Marvel announced they'd be doing more crossovers in 2025. And I mean, the fact that we had to restock things like the DC versus Marvel and Amalgam compendiums,
which we have several of, for the record.
We do still have some of the DC Marvel ones left, yeah. Those omnibuses. that speaks to how deep of a well of support these concepts have with fans. It's the general public thing. I don't know, man. Like, it just got announced this week. We haven't had anyone asking for it yet. We haven't started soliciting orders for any of our customers yet because the August catalogs just went up.
We did have somebody asking for it yesterday.
Oh, and then not to me.
You were right there.
Were they talking to me?
Yeah, you were ringing them up.
Who was it?
Sure.
I don't recall this at all. I definitely didn't hear him.
When does it come out? And I jumped in. I'm like, it's September.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't hear him at all. And that's not even asking a pre-order. That's just saying, when does it come out? With other titles that have had a tremendous level of heat, we get people reading an article and they call a store and they're like, do you have this? And can I order it? And that's a level of enthusiasm beyond just when is it coming out. I'll probably grab it off the shelf.
I think, hopefully, depending on FOC timelines and whatnot, what's going to make life easier for us is the tremendous amount of people that are just going to buy Deadpool Batman off the shelf and say, can you sign me up for the next one? And we can say, no, you can sign up for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Here's a bookmark
with
a QR code.
November. Set up your own account, or if you're a club member, just add it. You can add it yourself.
Yep.
It's not like it's coming out in 2 weeks. It's coming out in 2 months. So hopefully FOCs won't have closed.
I assume they won't. Yeah, if it's a November shipping book, I would think we would have at least a couple weeks between the release of one and the close of orders on the next one, which is how
be foil covers. So who knows?
Not for DC, and DC's foil covers close at the same time as everything else, so that's fine. Marvel's coming out first, so we will be ordering the Deadpool Batman, 6 different foil covers probably next week with no cover art.
Does it matter? It's just foil. Foil's enough. Foiled.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. Did we already talk about the backup people?
No.
Okay, so they have announced that there will be backups in both of these books by a host of creators featuring a host of characters from each company crossing over. And while this hasn't been an announcement, in a Chip Zdarsky email that just went out, he showed an advertisement.
Well, the cover for the next Marvel previews is what he showed.
Yeah.
For September shipping product. And it's the cover of Deadpool Batman, which is Batman and Deadpool leaping out of a cloud of smoke with Deadpool saying, "You're welcome." Greg Capullo image, probably the cover to the main cover. But at the top, there are a number of creators listed, as well as Greg Capullo, which we knew. And then additionally, Kevin Smith, Chip Zdarsky, Kelly Thompson, Adam Kubert, Terry Dodson, Guru Hiru, and more. Patrick had right away said that he was disappointed that it looked like Guru Hiru would not be working with Kelly Thompson, when I think you can line up the writers to the artists in that order. So Kevin Smith, Adam Kubert probably, Chip Zdarsky, Terry Dodson probably, and Kelly Thompson, Guru Hiru probably. And more. I don't know who and more is working with. No idea on what they're doing, if they're doing Deadpool characters, Batman characters, both, neither. My suspicion for the Kelly Thompson, Guru Hiru is Crypto Jeff. I'm going to throw that out there.
Wait, like Jeff gets into cryptocurrency?
Unfortunately.
Oh, man.
I know.
Batman came up to tell him how bad it is?
Yeah, it's a scared straight thing.
Gotcha.
Batman's like, I lost my fortune on crypto. Yeah, I think Deadpool Batman's going to do really well. I don't know if it's going to save the industry good, but I don't know. We're having a pretty good 2025, so maybe we don't need that to happen. I don't think that the problems with the industry at this point are, at least that we're dealing with, are of the, if only a really good book would come out. They're more like structural things where it's like a lot of this is hard and bad and we're earning less money from it. Also, Marvel should publish better books, but I guess there you go.
Sure. So customarily, September is a shit month for sales.
True.
And if I remember correctly, the Absolute book started in October of last year. Yes, it was October, then November.
Yeah, Absolute Power was running out, and All In came out like at the end of September as the All In special to kind of jumpstart things.
So this will obviously make September a good month. Batman #1 and
amongst other things, who knows?
Yeah, that we know of so far. So that'll definitely help September for the month. Looking ahead at months that are upcoming and more, looking back, like we had a strong May and there were a couple of good events good events always help bolster a month.
True.
We had a really good sales day for the Blades of Furry signing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to look ahead, like, what is Next May going to have?
Right.
Outside of Free Comic Book Day, because Free Comic Book Day is always there. It's a constant.
Right.
You can't measure it against any other events because there's always one there.
Correct.
We do have 2 events in late June, both Saturdays, back-to-back Saturdays. Mike Norton for the signing of Crypto, Last Dog Crypto, Krypton #1. And then the Saturday after that, we have something we haven't talked about before, which was actually on my list of things to talk about last week. We just never got around to it.
Whoops.
There's a new publisher, Amp Comics.
Okay.
And they're doing a new series that combines Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan into one universe. And it's called the Never Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing, like, the first Never Wars focuses on Dorothy.
Okay.
And Dorothy, as an adult, is a nurse in World War One.
Okay.
And only has a very distant memory of whatever the past was.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jabberwock, which seems to be like the main overarching villain for everybody in this universe, is like making itself known, and then she suddenly starts to remember what her life used to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing, for the first time since Do a Powerbomb,
oh man,
an exclusive cover, a Challengers exclusive cover for this book.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to pick the artist ourselves. I picked Jetta Lewis, who has signed with us at Free Comic Book Day the last 2 years, has already claimed next year as well.
She's got some multi-year sketches to keep adding to.
Right. That's right. So Jetta did a great cover of Dorothy in her nurse uniform, floating on an umbrella, holding soldiers during the war.
Yep.
And we're doing a signing June 28th. That's a Saturday. It'll be starting at noon.
Yep.
And what we're doing different is this is a $4.99 cover price book, but for this signing and for the first week or so of the book being out,
from the release day through the signing.
Yeah, we're going to sell it for $2.99.
Yep. Going to make it easy on people to try it out. Hopefully they'll come out and drive their cars very fast down the street.
Those are motorcycles.
I'm sure the cars too.
Like the movie? Cars too?
Yep. Cars too.
So that'll be, we're dipping our toe back into exclusive coverdom. Our name and logo are on the back cover.
Yeah.
It doesn't say Challengers on the front.
No.
But yeah, it is a first time. We're taking a chance on a book we don't know anything about.
Sure.
We obviously didn't know anything about Do a Powerbomb, but we
knew Dan.
Yeah. And we knew wrestling.
Yes.
We knew pro wrestling. So we have those 2 events in June, but we have Lucy and Isaac come back in August. July is open, and I think we're going to leave it that way.
Unless there's something we can't say no to.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to go looking for something in July. There's enough going on in July to not have to add events to it.
So then that means we're relying on the strength of the market to give us a good month.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good one. One of the things that's really good about the market right now is that there are enough steady sellers at a high level that it's not incumbent on a week to have like a real banger new #1 to get people to come out to stores. Like I would argue this past Wednesday, we had a really good Wednesday. I don't know that I consider anything that came out this week as a #1 to be a driver for sales.
Yeah.
Like the biggest book of the week probably was that Giant Size X-Men #1, which I didn't care for and we didn't really promote. We didn't get a ton of copies in. Mr. Terrific Year 1 #1 was fine. We didn't get a ton of copies in.
Because we didn't have a ton of pre-orders for either one of those.
Everything else was even less. But, there were enough solid regular books to bring people out and get people excited that the sales were still strong. They didn't need that #1 to like push it to a different level. They just needed the same good comics to come out, and they did. So I think that speaks to the health of the kind of publishing side of things right now, is that, before, if we didn't have a big new #1, it's like, well, no one's going to come out. Who cares? Like, no, the rest of the comics are still good.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
The joke of us getting both PRH and Lunar tomorrow is PRH is massive.
Yes. It's such a big week.
Because we've got Imperial #1.
Yep.
Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion #1.
Marvel Knights World of Gum #1.
Yeah.
Plus a bunch of stuff from Dark Horse and IDW.
Yeah. But the Lunar shipment is smaller.
Mm-hmm. It's got Absolute Green Lantern, which is our lowest selling Absolute book.
Yeah.
It's got Absolute Superman, which is our third lowest selling Absolute book. I got to tell you, like, Absolute Martian Manhunter is doing great. The number of people who came in yesterday who were there specifically to get Absolute Martian Manhunter number 3 was really cool. Like,
yeah, I'm glad
that was the big book for the week. Maybe more than Absolute Wonder Woman, which has a huge reader base.
I'm glad they bumped it to 12 issues at least.
It's real good. And I'm glad they didn't make it ongoing. I think 12 is good. Like, let this team do their thing and then get out.
Is New Gods 9 or 12?
I think it's 12.
I thought it was 9. I don't know. I wonder
weird.
where that number came from. Every once in a while I have in my head that a miniseries is an off number, but I don't know why. Like, I don't just make that up. I wonder why I think that.
At one point, I think I thought Black Canary was 8 issues, but it was only 6 ever.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
6 rounds. 6 rounds of the fight. That's where she had to get to. I have not finished that series. It is over, but I haven't finished it.
I know.
There is a project that I was hoping to work on tomorrow,
mm-hmm.
and it's something I kind of need to get done in the next 2 days.
Wow, okay.
But I don't know that I'll have time. I won't have any time for it on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping to do it tomorrow, but I don't know that I'll be able to with both those large orders coming in.
Huh? Is it a store task or a computer task?
It is a store task.
Okay.
It is
I was going to say I could probably work on it for you, but
it is a construction task.
Sorry.
Well, the art show has to come down.
Yes.
And what better time to finish my reconfiguring of the way we hang things than when we're taking everything off the wall?
Sure.
But I don't know. It's there's a lot of prep in my head to make life easier, but there's still several steps.
Mm-hmm.
Literally many steps up and down the ladder.
True.
Which will ruin me for tomorrow night, but
no.
Better that than a day when I have things to do afterwards.
Sure.
So I don't know. I may be at the store late tomorrow. I don't know. Or I may not do it at all. I may just take everything down, throw the other prints back up, and be done.
Yeah, I think it's probably that one.
But I don't want to. I mean, I've had the hardware for three construction tasks taunting me in the back. I just realized one of them has way more steps involved.
Yeah.
But that was the last one. Like, that was one that's not pressing, not imperative to do.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is so dumb. I want to raise the wall of new bookshelves that we put in Sidekicks off the ground.
Sure.
And
in case of flooding.
Yeah, I have.
Sure.
All we're doing is just putting boards down.
Yeah.
But you can't just lift those up.
Yeah, it's true.
You have to take everything off, move them out, and put everything back.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a labor
time consuming.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Just to put some board, and the boards aren't the exact width of the so they've got to. So you can't do one at a time. You need to clear everything out.
Sure.
And then align everything and put everything back and make sure everything is organized when you start putting stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty labor intensive.
Yes.
Pretty stupid.
Yep.
But had I thought of it ahead of time, I didn't. It wasn't even on my radar to do that.
Yeah.
We couldn't put wheels on those shelves like we have wheels on everything else, because that would raise them too high for the shelves above them.
Sure.
But we can add a board underneath without losing any space.
Yep.
And there's also room to do, you know what, I'll stop talking. None of it is integral to running the store.
Mm-hmm.
It is all entirely, while functional, cosmetic. Beautification, if you will. None of it is going to make us any more money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just will make me feel better about the way we have things done.
That's valid.
And yeah, I do need to get things done by a certain time period. Also, I just want to feel productive.
Sure.
Sometimes when you just do the same, I use the word menial, but I don't know if it actually fits. The same store tasks, day after day, week after week.
Mm-hmm.
It's valid, important things you need to do to keep your business running, but it doesn't feel like you're improving anything.
Right.
It just feels like you're existing.
Yeah. Special projects can make you feel like the store's moving in a direction instead of just staying the same.
Now, we tried to get everything done at Sidekicks ahead of time of Free Comic Book Day, but that's a moot point because that room is completely disassembled.
Mm-hmm. For Free Comic Book Day, yeah.
And for all the work that we've done at Sidekicks recently and how I think it looks great.
Yeah.
I think it's the best it's ever been. I think it's organized well. You did a great job of reorganizing and laying out everything.
Thanks.
Grouping things, sectioning things. We have signs so you let you know what sections things are in.
Yep.
Even if I couldn't find Blood City rollers because I was looking in sport and not in spooky.
It's Vampire Roller Derby. Vampires first.
Yeah, there you go. Well, because we had another section it could have been in as well as sporty. But anyway, for as much work as we've done, as good as it looks, ultimately the payoff is the sales.
Right.
But every once in a while, you want somebody who'd been there before to come in and go, "Oh man, it looks so great in here."
Yeah.
And you don't get that.
Well, so what I always want is two things. I want someone to go, "Wow, this looks great," and then buy something. Too often, it's the first one and not the second one, and it's like, that means nothing. That's worse than if you'd said nothing at all. Because all I'm hearing is like, "It looks great." I wasn't going to buy anything. Like, oh, then I wasted my time making it look good.
It's akin to,
thanks.
"Wow, you got a great store. I'm totally going to come back."
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But, I mean, new people find the store every day.
They really do. It's the number of people come in. "Oh, how long have you been here?" "Over 17 years. "Oh, okay." But then there's also people who are like, "I pass by here all the time and I keep meaning to come in. I finally did. Thanks for making time for us today."
Woman came in specifically looking for roller derby comics.
Mm-hmm.
Was able to help her out. Get her to buy Slam. She's very excited for Slam for her granddaughter, niece, cousin, sister-in-law, dog sitter. I don't know. Somebody.
Okay.
They were 15. So I do feel that Blood City Rollers was probably too young for them
I think
anyway.
Slam's probably the better choice overall.
Well, also, we don't have Trish Trash Roller Girl of Mars Volume 1, only Volume 2.
Yeah, I think Slam is the better choice.
But when I was talking about Trish Trash, and I mentioned it was by Jessica Abel, and I said, "Oh yeah, Jessica Abel used to live in Chicago and then moved to Mexico City." First she said, "Why would she do that?" Like, I don't know. Did she hate the winters? I don't know. I don't know her personally.
Yeah, maybe it was excited about the culture. Maybe wanted to move there for other reasons.
But then she paused and said, "Wait, she did a lot of comics about, like a lot of autobiographical comics about living in Mexico." Yeah, I'm going to assume this one she moved to Mexico City.
Probably.
Like, yeah, no, I've heard of her. I'm like, yeah, she did like an autobiographical book called Art Babe for a while, but it wound up being like, oh no, I know who this person is.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I'm suddenly more invested in Trish Trash, but for my niece, Slam is the way to go.
Yes, the correct choice.
I'm going to bring my granddaughter back in on Saturday. I'm like, okay, I'll see you on Saturday.
Love it.
Yeah, it's always when there's a specific request, like, what do you have for roller derby that isn't Roller Girl because we've already bought that one?
Yeah, right.
Okay, because Roller Girl would have been the first choice.
Sure.
Sometimes, like whenever I'm doing an interview with James Van Alstel, he talks about how good we are at recommending books. And he loves to throw two things together that don't go. He's like, what do you have like that's French Revolution meets vampires?
Mm-hmm.
And he wants you to come up with an answer off the top of your head.
Right.
Like, man, you're killing me. So I learned a long time ago that I could just literally say any book and just start vaguely describing it so long as it kind of touches it. He's like, man, you can do it every time. So he's not looking for an actual specific.
Yeah,
he just
it's not an interest for something he wants to read.
He wants it to be an answer to his question.
Right.
Which, now that I know the workaround, I feel more comfortable with. But when it's legitimately somebody who's looking to buy a book, what I don't like are the questions of, I'm going to get a tattoo, but I want.
Oh my god, it's the worst question.
Of a mage or something magic related, not the card game magic, but like fantasy. What examples of art do you have like that?
Oh my god,
the internet.
Yeah, I pick up any book and look through it because you're not asking for a story. You're just looking for like a piece of artwork that is going to be like significant to you. It's like, I don't know if that's the way to even choose a tattoo because it's like, it's not that you saw a piece of art and went, oh my god, I love this so much, I got to get this on my body. You're just like, I don't know, I want a picture of a werewolf or something. Like, why would you just randomly pick one to go, oh, that looks good enough to be on my body forever? That's a thing I don't know anything about, but it looks cool. Also, going to the tattoo shop, they have art hanging on all the walls. Yeah. Also, I don't know, maybe go to a tattoo artist and say, hi, I'm looking to get a tattoo of a mage or a dragon or a werewolf on my body, and they will come up with something because that's also partly their job. Wait, you said or you mean a mage, dragon, werewolf? Maybe. I don't know your D&D campaign. You're the DM. I'm not the DM. Who's been emailing me from your account? I don't know.
your Dungeons and Dragons account, which is clearly a thing, I'm sure. I don't think I've read anything this week. Did you read Crypto yet?
No.
Did you read Supergirl 2?
I wouldn't read Supergirl 2 in advance because I know I like it and I want to read it as it comes out.
That's fair. I also don't know if it was given to us. I just
maybe
made up a name.
I didn't look at anything from last week's DC email, and there hasn't been this week's DC email yet.
That's true. There hasn't been. That's weird.
They were always on Thursdays until they suddenly became always on Wednesdays, and now they're Wednesdays or Thursdays, depending on the week.
Yeah, but it's always during Dynamite.
Well, it's true.
Which I watched on Thursday this week, so it could have been both.
I think because of the holiday this week, I would have expected the email to go out later today. On Thursday.
I guess so. Let us then wind down with talking about the industry's loss of Peter David.
Yeah, very sad to hear that. He'd been struggling with his health for a while, yet somehow still had been writing comics. He had a most recent Symbiote Spider-Man, which is like the black costume era Spider-Man stuff. Symbiote Spider-Man 2099 that came out in 2024.
Yeah.
So pretty recently. Also, he had work in the Amalgam Age companion Omnibus. I think he was one of the two writers on DC versus Marvel, the historic 1990s crossover event.
Peter David got his start in the sales department for Marvel, and he was working under Carol Kalish, who Carol Kalish was instrumental in the creation of the direct market, and they had a campaign that got stores actual cash registers because
so
back in the day, literally back in the day when I first, not when I first started working, but when I first started shopping, the stores we were going to were using cigar boxes.
Yeah. You would just,
a box of money.
You would have your comics and you'd go up to the counter, not even the register, and they would say it's this much, and you'd hand them the money, and they'd go into the cigar box to get whatever change, and they put whatever cash you gave them into the box.
Yeah.
The end.
They might have a calculator with a printout roll.
Sure. If that.
Things like that. But
maybe like a notebook that they were writing down sales in.
Yeah. But Carol Kalish made it her mission to get cash registers into stores, and Peter David worked in her department and was an assistant and longed for a career in writing comics and was applying for things. And it was almost being a sales employee at Marvel was like a detriment because they didn't want you to do
it was disqualifying.
And when he finally got an assignment, he had to only do it on nights and weekends. He could never do it during office hours, things like that.
He's doing Spider-Man stuff for Jim Owsley, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But then, he's credited with revolutionizing the Incredible Hulk. Multiple year, 2 different stints writing the Hulk, but really
a multi-decade run on X Factor across any number of editorial changes at Marvel. That book always found a way to come back under Peter David's pen. A huge career. And as I was talking about this with friends of mine who are not necessarily comics fans, they'll bring up more readily the number of Star Trek novels he wrote. He was a huge science fiction writer. Worked on TV shows like Babylon 5, co-created Space Cases with Bill Mumy. He wrote a ton of Star Trek novels across every conceivable Star Trek franchise.
I mean, immediately you have to say Imzadi.
I mean, that's the, for a time, like that was like the high watermark of Star Trek novels when science fiction novels were such a huge part of franchises like Star Trek and Star Wars.
But he revolutionized Aquaman for DC.
Yep.
Gave him a hook for a hand.
Created Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
With Rick Lenardi.
Created an iteration of Supergirl that existed for a while with Gary Frank.
Yeah. Did Soul Searchers and Company. Did Saxon Violence with
George Perez. Yeah.
Did, for me, and this is, I don't know if this is going to get talked about a lot because it's so long ago and it's almost hard to explain to people, but he was the back column in Comics Buyer's Guide, But I Digress, for a number of years. And that was huge. Like really like internet fandom, like Comics Buyer's Guide was, before Wizard Magazine, which Wizard Magazine isn't even a thing anymore. Right there.
I'm looking for mine.
Okay. I still have a collection of But I Digress strips that are now hilariously out of date because they're all from like the 1980s and 90s, I think. But that stuff was huge. One stupid joke I made to a friend when they were talking about how, we were just like listing different things. And they'd said, Peter David was a legend. I'm like, no, he never worked at Legend. John Byrne hated him. And that was like the one joke I was kind of happy I made. But yeah, I mean, so much stuff. Like definitely
Young Justice.
You can keep naming stuff. Like you will always forget one of the random, like, oh yeah, Peter David did a huge run on that was like epochal. For me, it's just, he was a guy that was one of the first writers that I really followed when I got into comics. Like, his heyday is when I started reading superhero comics. So I collected a ton of Peter David comics, and whenever he would land on a new book, I would always pick it up. I collected for years so many different Peter David comics. Like a lot of writers that worked in superheroes, I don't know that I kept up with a lot of his stuff recently. I was always glad to see him get work, especially on characters that he had made a mark on.
I think I read 2 of his 3 Maestro miniseries, but never went up with a third one.
Yeah, he had, I think, a Joe Fixit series also semi-recently.
Oh, yeah, I did that one. That was fun. It was like a Spider-Man Joe Fixit team up. German Peralta got his start on one of those Maestro books.
And I don't want to get like, I don't want to bring the vibe down at all, because I think his career is something to be celebrated just in and of itself. But it's super sad that he was struggling with money and covering his healthcare costs in his later years.
With crowdfunding.
When he had created so many things of so much value to massive media conglomerates and basically found himself getting almost nothing from them when he most needed it. And that is, to this day, still such a disappointing thing in this industry of guys, creators, men and women, who had created so much, both of artistic and financial value, that then got nothing from it when they needed it the most. It's sad that the Hero Initiative and things like that are still so necessary when it would take so little from, the profits of something like the second Spider-Verse animated movie that had Spider-Man 2099 as such a prominent character.
Yep.
To have a little of that money go towards a guy like Peter David instead of just like a weird thank you in the credits or whatever, or the pennies that creators like that will get tossed when the people making the movie would not have that character to use without Peter David. That's so disappointing. But regardless, Peter David's comics still exist. A lot of that stuff I think is still in print. I know a lot of it is available on the various apps, Marvel Unlimited and DC's universe. So if you do feel a need to catch up with his stuff, I don't know if they've got reading guides for him, but hopefully they will soon. They do for certain creators. But yeah, you can definitely plug in Peter David's name to like Marvel Unlimited. It'll surface a lot of different Hulk comics and X-Factor comics. X-Factor with Joe Quesada and Larry Stroman. I mean, that's good stuff.
There's a lot of creators that have passed, and there always will be. But
it's the nature of life.
But Peter David, to me, felt like the first one of my generation.
Really?
I mean, like you can say, Darwin Cook died several years ago.
Sure.
Darwin Cook didn't have the impact on my life that Peter David did. For just the length of when I was reading, and it felt like.
And a guy like Bill Mantlo was, that was an accident tragedy. That's not like.
He's not dead.
He's not?
No.
Well, he's never going to write again.
No, he's not. But he's not dead.
Okay.
You can, in fact, write to him. His brother just recently put out a request saying
good to hear.
That they read everything to Bill. So Bill Mantlo, not to get too far from Peter David,
sure,
wrote everything, especially licensed books for Marvel in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But he was winding down his writing career and was going to law school at night. And he got around New York City on his bicycle. And one night coming
rollerblading.
I'm pretty sure it's bicycle.
Okay. I don't know if it's an important detail, but that's just the thing I remember.
Nonetheless, while on a wheeled conveyance under his own power, he was hit by a car. And he's never been the same mentally since then.
Yeah.
But he didn't die. He's still alive.
Okay. I mean, I didn't think he died because of the accident. I thought he had passed away more recently.
I understand. They would do special, like, hey, they got from Marvel, they got a screening of Guardians of the Galaxy before it was in theaters.
Because he had co-created.
To show him in his care facility. Mm-hmm. He's in a care facility. He can't care for himself.
Right.
But he is alive and aware, and you can write letters to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to dig up that address and leave it in the comments.
Oh, nice.
But Peter David is only like 8 or 9 years older than I am.
Okay. And
I feel like he was a fan when I was a fan, and he was a fan for the same reasons I'm a fan.
Sure.
So
he came up on the same books.
Right. And so following him for the majority of his career, like he's somebody that I've been reading his whole career.
Yeah.
He always felt like he was one of us.
Yeah, I think for me, the first writer recently that hit me the hardest was Keith Giffen.
Yeah.
Because he's not a contemporary of mine. He was significantly older than me. But Keith Giffen was a guy that I read growing up. Like other creators who passed away were people that I recognized as being significant to the industry and to the medium, but they weren't necessarily people that I read or I enjoyed as they were coming out or found. Like, it would be somebody from the Silver Age where it's like, oh my God, they created such and such. But it's like, well, they were doing comics 10 years before I was born. So it's not really stuff that I would have enjoyed. It's all stuff that I knew about and understood its relevance. But yeah, Peter David is somebody where it's like, I bought so many Peter David comic books. I excitedly read so many Peter David comic books. If I'm being perfectly honest, when I think of the Hulk, I think of Peter David and Dale Kalin's Hulk.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one I think of.
I think of Peter David and Jeff Purves, but then...
Sure you do.
But then, dude, I love Mr. Fix-It so much.
It's great, but that's not like a huge, like, run of issues. Jeff Purves was not on it for that long.
No. He was just a storyboard guy who dipped his toes into comics, then said, I don't need this. I guess. I don't know for sure. I loved Peter David's first novel, Nightlife.
Sure.
Where King Arthur is thought out in modern times or whatever, however he was brought back.
I checked out from the library, Sir Apropos of Nothing.
Hold on. I was getting there.
I was going to say, that's similarly.
But that's apropos of something.
Yes.
And I got Peter David to sign my copy of Nightlife. And then his second novel is called Howling Mad, which is what happens when a wolf is bitten by a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
I read that in one sitting.
Wow.
Cover to cover, picked it up. I mean, I bought it first, obviously. Mm-hmm. Picked it up, put it down when I was done.
Wow.
I've only ever done that twice in my life with a book. And that was one of them. Then there was the whole Sir Apropos of Nothing series. I
only read the first one.
There was 3 of them, I want to say.
Got it from library.
A whole universe. And then not, his dozens of spin-off books of Star Trek and Babylon 5 and what have you.
I saw a picture that somebody posted of Star Trek New Frontier, which is a thing I'd completely forgotten about, but it was a novel created series where it was like some characters from the TV shows, but some brand new characters.
Yeah. Co-created by Peter David.
Yes.
That whole
because I'm like, oh, Peter David's doing a new Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
And it was great because it was more like Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 than it was like traditional Star Trek stuff. So it had that little edgier vibe that Deep Space Nine would have.
But then there was the whole Peter David did an original series novel as well.
Mm-hmm. Did so much stuff. I mean, he was the writer on the DC comic books, was it? No, was it? Did he ever run on the DC comics?
Wasn't that Robert Lord Fleming?
I gotta look. Because I feel like he did the tail end of the DC comics.
Maybe. Back when they were on.
Did he do one with Adam Hughes? I'm going to look up Peter David Star Trek comics. I'm going to type in. We're going to see what comes up.
Sure. So yeah, losing Peter David is somebody who I felt I was with him for his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
And he felt like he was just one of us. Like he felt like just one of your friends.
Yeah.
From the way he interacted, his.
Oh man, Dreadstar.
He wrote Dreadstar?
He took over Dreadstar after Starlin left.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh, man.
I'm sure I own those books. I just don't remember that.
Was it Angel Medina?
I mean, Medina was on Dreadstar for a very long time, but I don't know.
But yeah, Peter David was the guy who took it over.
Wow.
Wrote the Star Trek comic book from DC from 88 to 91.
Issue numbers or years?
Years. I'm just going through his Wikipedia entry, so I'm not sure if there is a specific link I can go to here.
Oh, that's fine.
Nightlife. Years later, Penguin Putnam brought it back into print in 2003 and made it a trilogy with the sequels One Night Only, with a K, and Fall of Night, with a K.
Both by Peter David?
Yes. Published in 2004 and 2007, respectively.
I never knew that.
Good news, Patrick. You got more on your plate.
Wow.
Hopefully you can still find them. Yeah, oh my God.
Jeez.
Just reading through his Wikipedia entry is like such an unbelievably prolific writer. Again, the amount of things that he did that I loved that I'd completely forgotten about until I see it and I go, oh yeah, that thing that I loved. I keep forgetting he did all these Full Moon Entertainment movies.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he definitely
Transfers
did.
4 and 5, Oblivion and Oblivion 2 Backlash. He wrote for Ben 10.
Oh, I thought you had to be like Steven Seagal or Joe Kelly.
I guess they were fans. He wrote the script for the Xbox 360 video game Shadow Complex from 2009.
Wow.
Here we go, bibliography. It's its own separate article. Comics. So chronologically, His first... This is right? That can't be right. Oh, okay. This is just, like, not... like okay.
Oh my God, just tell us.
I'm just going to go over the big ones. Aquaman, Avengers, Captain Marvel.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Genus Vel.
Fallen Angel. Random FF stuff. A bunch of the Marvel Cinematic Universe adaptation comics. The Incredible Hulk. Can't believe I forgot to mention that.
Weird.
God, that goes on forever. She-Hulk. For just a couple years. 82 issues of Soul Searchers and Company.
Wow.
Spider-Man, Death of Gene DeWolf, Spider-Man 2099.
Oh, yeah, Death of Gene DeWolf. That was a major storyline.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Spider-Man Gang War.
Spy Boy with Pop Man.
Yeah, and Spy Boy Young Justice. That.
Supergirl, which ran 80 issues, plus like some tie-in stuff. And then, yeah, Young Justice. And then Star Trek, which 8 billion novels and comic books. God, New Frontier. Look at so many New Frontier novels. New Frontier ran as a series from 1997 up through 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, nuts.
18 years.
What a huge and storied career. Yeah. If you've not read any Peter David stuff and you have access to things like different apps that have his comics on them, Marvel, again, I'd probably say Incredible Hulk for sure. And then also X Factor, the DC one, Young Justice, definitely. And then Supergirl. I think it'd probably be the ways I'd go.
Well, what a career.
Mm-hmm.
He had a stroke at the same time my dad had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while I was comparing their recoveries.
Yeah.
Peter David seemed to be recovering faster.
Yeah.
Like I remember him going out bowling,
Sure.
after.
Sure.
I'm thinking like, my dad can't bowl. But then Peter had a lot of setbacks and a lot of different health problems. And
the last years especially were very difficult for him and his family.
Yeah. But yeah, we are forever thankful for all of the entertainment he's given us.
Yeah. I mean, that guy added things to the superhero medium that will be there forever. He added stuff to things like X Factor and the Hulk, and again, creating the concept of Young Justice that have been translated into other mediums and will stick around forever and will be reinterpreted by other creators for decades to come. A lot of people who are working in the industry now grew up on his stuff. I don't think you would have gotten Mark Russell's X Factor without Peter David's X Factor.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.